Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Return to Hoodoo by Reggi Dupree. And this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Welcome to Hoodoo, Texas, the town overflowing with vampires, witches, shifters, root workers, and for the next 12 hours, me. One of those doesn't belong, and that thing would be yours truly, Gwen Carter, black, tatted, and bisexual, the trifecta of outsiders. Or one would suspect, but nope. In Hoodoo, no one cared about your complexion, your bed partners, or even your species. Yep, Hoodoo, Texas, a regular Shangri-fucking-La. And lucky me, I spent half a lifetime as the oddball in a town loaded with peculiar creatures, both human and non. Which team did I play on? Well, until I died for the second time, I'd say Team Human. Now, not so much. I was the proud recipient of a transfer to Team Non-Human. If only I knew what I was. The ancestors, the bar I sat watching like a jilted lover, has belonged to my family since Texas was wild, free, and part of Mexico. Even then, the ancestors thrived thanks to the vaqueros, vampires, and Los Lobos. And I wasn't talking about the wolves that pranced on all fours 24/7, but the other kind. The ringing laughter of women, black, white, and in between, rocking big hair, glittering belt buckles, and jeans so tight they probably had to lie down to button them up, faded as they walked through the bar's double doors. 20 feet in front of me, a cowboy sauntered past the headlights of a pickup so high I'd need a forklift to reach the passenger seat. The halogen beams highlighted a faded dip can ring. And yee-haw, that circle was damned near as perfectly defined as his ass. I snickered and shook my head. Nothing like a nice butt to spice up a yucky mood. What did it reveal about me that a pair of Wranglers and a sun-bleached dip circle finally made me smile? A solid knock at my window made me squeak. You going to spend some of that fancy money in my bar? Purnell stood grinning outside the closed window of my van. My cousin looked more bouncer than businessman, with his generous shoulders and bald reddish-brown head gleaming under the security light's yellowish glow. With Purnell, it was always indiscernible whether he was laughing at you or with you. Here it was most definitely at, judging by the raised eyebrow and snicker when he glanced at my death grip on the steering wheel. One by one, I uncurled my fingers, then slapped my hands against my thighs. No family discount? I asked, batting my non-mascaraed lashes. His enormous eyes widened a feat I didn't believe possible. Are you shitting me? I'd make no money if I gave you jackasses a discount. Which was true, since he was related to a quarter of the town by blood and another quarter by marriage and other things. Purnell jerked the door open and stepped aside. Get your ass out here and give me a hug. I hopped out of the van and into my cousin's arms, which were safe, warm, and smelled suspiciously of blood and bourbon. The knot that settled in my chest when I received the summons from the family lawyer 2 weeks ago loosened, although I doubted it would untangle anytime soon, but hey, it was a start. I pulled away and poked his substantial tummy. Since when did you become food? Like most families, mine defined complicated. The Carter family tree went sideways with the first girls born in Hoodoo. 3 women, 3 divergent paths. Daisy, the youngest, not only made her home in Hoodoo, but somehow remained both uncursed and human. My Aunt Rose, the woman who raised me after my mother died, took a walk on the undead side almost 150 years ago. Then there was my direct ancestor. Honestly, thinking about her made my heart hurt. Her grave lay unmarked and untended in an overgrown corner of the cemetery, her name never whispered. The curse that began with her had allegedly been broken by yours truly. I leaned back, shoved all the family bullshit back into the mental closet where it belonged, and grinned at my stout cousin. Hey, Purnell shrugged. I like women, even the ones with fangs. He wiggled his eyebrows. If they're hot enough. Purnell tugged the keys from my hand, engaged the alarm, then jerked his head toward the front door. Come on. If I don't get back in there, Mary Cat's going to try to drag my ass back inside. Try? I gave Purnell the side eye and chuckled. Even as kids, Mary Cat kept her big brother and everyone else in line. Purnell snorted, wrapped his beefy arm around my shoulder, then led me through one of the massive wooden doors of the ancestors and straight into the slaughter. Okay, that was an exaggeration. He led me to not the lion's den, but an improved entry, complete with a small gift shop selling postcards, baseball caps, and t-shirts, both plain and bedazzled. I glanced down at my loose white V-neck tee, artfully ripped in insanely expensive jeans, and my well-loved cowboy boots, which were my version of a comfort animal. If I were a woman who gave a damn about the opinion of others, I would have changed clothes. Armor comes in many forms: cosmetics, a sharp power suit, or an even sharper tongue. Mine was simple. If you didn't do one of the three F's, your opinion was moot. Even if you were feeding, fucking, or financing me, they only gave you a bit more leeway. The ancestors wasn't the only change. On my drive through town, old-fashioned imitation gas lampposts illuminated the well-paved streets, and wine barrels overflowed with flowers and greenery. Funny, but once upon a time, the folks from Oak Ridge, Conroe, and the Woodlands didn't cross the tracks. Now, Hoodoo appeared gentrified, unless they looked too closely at some of the eternally youthful citizens. You could have called a brother. Purnell paused, some of the joviality evaporating with his next words. You crashing out at the Double R? The Double R, the place this orphan once called home. The place I learned to laugh and love again after my mother's death. And the seat of the local vampire's power. I shook my head. No. My family could keep their almost Hatfield and McCoy level feud to themselves. I wanted none of it. Although one thing that brought the clans together before I left was the mutual dissatisfaction with me and my silence. As much as it sucked for all involved, I took promises seriously, especially ones given as my friend inhaled his last breath. That pitiful 18-year-old version of me embraced the knowledge that my friends and family knew wholeheartedly what kind of person I was, that they'd believe I wasn't a murderer. I was wrong. Purnell squeezed my shoulder so hard I swear I heard bones creak. Put all that shit about where it belongs behind you. Well, it's not me. That's the problem now, is it? I exhaled, then managed to unclench my teeth. I'm meeting Philip in the morning. Figured I'd stop by for a drink and to say hello. I jerked my thumb toward the front wall. I'll crash in my van tonight, sign the papers tomorrow, then bounce. What papers? Purnell frowned, apparently flummoxed that something happened in Hoodoo without his knowledge. I deflated and immediately reached for the lock, brushing against my neck, twirling it around my finger. Some people chewed their nails. I was a hair twister. I was secretly hoping you'd know and would tell me that it had nothing to do with the accusations that chased me out of town. Well, Purnell puffed up a little. Maybe while you have that drink, I'll see what I can dig up. Thanks. This time when my lips curved upward, my heart was lighter. Some surprises I could do without. My gut was hollering that this summons to Hoodoo would be a doozy. Purnell tilted his head slightly to the right as if listening to an invisible voice, then gently pulled me away from the door milliseconds before a rowdy group of roughnecks bowled through, laughing and cursing. Even cleaned up without a speck of oil beneath their nails, you could always tell a person fresh off the rigs with money to waste. Money I was sure Purnell planned to shift from their pockets to his bank account. A brawny, sheepish man, wearing his best Stetson and a dusting of freckles across his nose, jerked his chin up at Purnell and nodded at me. Sorry, ma'am. A cute flush turned his brown skin a lovely shade of burgundy. No problem. Despite not being remotely interested in this man, my tummy warmed at the purity of our exchange. The smile tugging at my lips was as genuine and unbidden as his blush. Because to this man, I wasn't the tattooed freak who kept everyone at arm's distance. I wasn't the weirdo who spoke with the dead. No, to this man, I was merely a middle-aged woman with a big rack and a semi-tight body. Those brown eyes of his discreetly checked out said body without fleeing when they reached my baby Buddha belly. Dude was adorable. Hopefully he'd meet someone with less baggage tonight, especially since having sex with me came with consequences like the coroner. But that was a whole nother story, one I didn't want to think about tonight. Luckily, Mr. Sweet Cheeks, and I wasn't talking about his buttocks, at least not yet, interrupted my trip down accused of multiple murder lane. Some people don't have home training. He tilted his head toward his friends as they walked through the interior set of double doors. I chuckled as he backed away, a shy smile on his full lips. Maybe I can buy you a drink. Perhaps. I hooked my thumbs in my belt loops and rocked back on my heels. What the hell, man? Purnell sounded gruff, but the smirk ruined the effect. What if she's with me? The mellow roughneck shook his head. Nah, man, she'd have a better taste. And if she didn't, I'd have to convince her of the errors of her ways. He gave me a wink and then followed his friends into the bar. Oh, yeah, the second set of cheeks was just as lovely as the first. Say what you want, but some things about Texas I absolutely missed, like manners. I tapped my fingernail against my watch, pivoted, and followed the roughneck's path to the doors leading to booze. I called over my shoulder to Purnell. Get moving. It's 1:30 Bourbon time. But he wasn't grinning. His face held a solemnity that didn't fit the occasion. The smile that had finally found its way to my face faded into something less fun. Before I could ask what was wrong, what happened, Purnell spoke. Bring your ass home. Settle down. Be with people you don't have to front around. When I didn't answer, he kept talking. Sometimes you gotta stop chasing happiness and let it find you. I blinked. Purnell, the eternal life of the party, had become enlightened. Maybe, but what I'm looking for ain't in Hoodoo. For the first time in decades, the thought saddened me. Not that I wanted to return to Hoodoo. Folks' opinions should have no bearing on my actions, but keeping it real, since I wasn't as human as I'd once believed, being on the receiving end of hate could become my kryptonite. Then again, perhaps my past was just that, behind me. Yeah, right. I'd been gone, over 25 years? For some, forever wouldn't be long enough. And I couldn't blame them. Purnell pulled the second door open, his smile softening when I hesitated, as if my thoughts were visible in my face. Go on. It'll be all right. You're a Carter. Handle your business. I didn't want to handle business tonight. I planned to sit on a stool, listen to music, and suck up the best bourbon on the shelf. Was that too much to ask? I spun around, put my fists on my hips, then gave Purnell my best I don't want no bullshit scowl. Of course, he just laughed in response. Whatever. I shook my head and froze, which was a really, really bad idea. Because the first rule of Ghost Club was pretending they didn't exist, to look through corporeal pests. Too bad for me, my gaze locked on the man who'd walked through the main door, like right through the wood, because A, the door was closed, and B, he was dead. My breathing quickened as my left hand tingled. The sensation reminded me of the blood hurriedly returning to an extremity. I shoved my hand into my loose jeans pocket, whispering a small prayer to whomever would listen that the electricity aching to find its way free didn't create another hole in my pants. This was so not happening. Not here. Not tonight. The skin across my face tightened as I struggled to keep my shit together, to refrain from screaming at the young man that only I could see. The young man who'd been one of my closest friends and confidants. Duncan, the young man half of Hoodoo believed I'd murdered with black magic.